this happen. Yesterday we tried to do this and we could not get a clear signal. But as you can see, the video is titled, Who's More Divisive? And we're going to be talking about Biden versus Trump. Now, obviously, there are other candidates that could enter the race in 2024, but you see the name of the video. So as folks filter in, we're going to be asking, who do you believe is more divisive and why? What led you to that decision? What do you believe is going on between these two candidates that would lead folks to suggest that they're being divisive? Now, obviously, Trump has already 4 years of prior experience in the White House, whereas Biden is coming up on 2. So there's a lot more material to go with in regards to Biden versus Trump, at least from a standpoint of president. Now, clearly, Biden has been in politics. Biden has been in Washington a hell of a lot longer than Donald Trump has been in politics. But which one of these men do you believe is more divisive? Biden or Trump? I mean, we're hearing it from both. Now, despite whatever you thought about Trump, Biden was supposedly elected to be a unifier. So whereas Trump was not elected to be a unifier. There were different reasons we elected Trump. But Biden was supposedly elected to unite the country. So in regards to this question, I see a couple of folks, Messi2662, you are saying that you believe Trump was more divisive. And the same thing is coming from Terry Armstrong. So you guys do believe Trump was more divisive. He's divided the country for years, said user203. So if you're saying for years, my assumption is that you're talking about President Biden. James 173rd, appreciate your service. Trump tried to overthrow the government. Well, the jury's still out on it. The jury's still out on it. In regards to the folks watching this, how many of you believe that President Trump did indeed try to overthrow or essentially eliminate the democracy in this country? So, or some would even call it a coup. Some have even used the word coup. But do you believe he actually tried to do that, or is that some kind of hit job from the left? Because we're hearing both. Biden has been dividing, says user 203. Yeah. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't believe that Biden has been anywhere near as successful in regards to uniting the country as folks thought he would be. But is he more divisive than Trump? That's the question we're asking. You can point to areas where Biden has done things that may have upset the nation. But the question is, which one of these men is more divisive as a whole? Let me see here. And user 2, okay, all right. I'll take some divisiveness with a good economy, NG Bro Coleman. Well, the economy might be what's mostly important to you. However, division can lead to a lot of bad problems. You don't know how far somebody is going to take their division. And you may ultimately end up being a victim of it. Make no mistake about it. We've had 2 major events in this country that were division or divisive oriented. We had a African American get on a subway in New York and essentially try to eradicate an entire different race of people. And then we had the same thing happen in Buffalo. So when you say you'll take some divisiveness with a good economy, that type of stuff is what you can also be accepting with an A, accepting when you invite divisiveness. Divisiveness can lead to problems. You do not know what is in the mindset of those who are being led down that path. Electo Temps, you're saying Trump was definitely more divisive. The president is one of the lizard people. I don't know what the hell that means, Kush God, but I hope you are enjoying the Kush. NKT, his fault. Are you suggesting not his fault? I don't know. Biden and Obama, the great dividers. Big Wood, 1970. Are you stating that Biden and Obama were great dividers and Trump was a unifier? Elaborate on your point. I want to know where you're going with that. If you believe that Biden, or better yet, Obama, then Biden were great dividers, there's a guy in the middle, Trump. Do you believe Trump was a unifier? Matt, your 316 is false. Okay. Trump absolutely tried to overthrow the election, says Political Pendulum. Well, that's kind of what they're performing the investigation of. The January 6th inquiries are going about that now. And there are a few Republicans, although small, albeit very small, the Liz Cheneys, the Mitt Romneys, that actually do believe that. Democratic Party almost unanimously agrees with what you're saying. But the Republican Party is a little different. He sure did. So, is there anyone? Let me rephrase this because I'm seeing the answers coming in, and I'm shocked because you know who my favorite audience is, and I'm really shocked at these answers. Is there anyone in here that believes President Biden is more divisive than Trump? And if so, you're invited to come in the box. I'll put you on, and we can all hear what you got to say. But is there anyone in here that believes President Biden is more divisive than President Trump? And I'm asking it from that standpoint simply because all of the answers seem to be pointing towards Trump. I'm really surprised at that. Trump did not want my vote to count. Wow. Longer in office without doing anything is BS, says Red Henderson. Yeah, but we're talking about being divisive. If you want to talk about the economy, you want to talk about the actual numbers in regards to how the country was being ran, I'm in the camp that Trump was doing a better job on it. There's no denying that fuel prices are at record highs. You can spin some of this and say that isn't Biden's fault or that's not Biden's fault. But at the end of the day, this shit is happening under Biden. So I'm not here to defend President Biden in regards to the economy. We're talking about which leader was more divisive. Is there anyone out there that believes President Biden is more divisive than Trump? Come on in the box. I'd like to hear from you because I'm really surprised that most of the folks, even folks who are in support of number 45 that support Trump, most of those folks, even in this forum, do believe that Trump was more divisive. As NGA just said, I'll take divisiveness in a good economy. So you essentially, yeah, he was divisive, but he's running the country better, so I'll take that. So I'm really surprised at that. There isn't one single person who can say Biden, damn, it scrolled up. I wanted to see that comment. Bro, tell me about how they always do it. I don't get that one, but let's see what's going on. Bri, do we have someone? Biden can't change hate in an evil heart. Wow. Okay, Bri, good afternoon. What's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going.
I think that Biden is way more divisive, and I'll give you a few reasons.
Okay, please do.
If you're black and you don't know who you're voting for, then you're not black. That's pretty divisive.
Okay. Okay, keep going.
I learned about cockroaches, and that's when I learned about cockroaches. And I like cockroaches. I mean, I like kids playing on my lap. That was pretty divisive.
Wait a minute. I like kids playing on my lap as a divisive comment?
Yeah, when he called them cockroaches. And then turned around and said,
he liked it.
Yeah, when he said, and they rubbed my legs down at the pool. And that's when I learned about, and I like cockroaches. And then I like kids playing on my lap.
Okay, keep going.
And the only divisiveness you heard out of Trump was what the mainstream media pushed on you. If the mainstream media would treat Biden the same way they treated Trump, definitely Biden would be 100% more divisive.
Okay. All right, let me respond. And real quick, user got 1962 US, what's going on with the evening show? My internet connection for some reason where I'm at last night was all screwed up, but we'll be back on it hopefully tonight at 7 p.m. as usual. Now, Bri, in regards to you saying that the media was on Trump more and President Biden was divisive, I tend to disagree on these grounds. If you support Trump, if you support the policies of Trump, when he says divisive stuff, if you support it, it's not very divisive. It's going to sound like it's pro-American. For instance, if he talks about shithole countries, if you are a descendant of one of those countries, that's going to be divisive to you. But if you truly believe that you don't want immigrants coming from those countries, it's not divisive to you. So I do believe that Trump said a lot of things that were divisive that had nothing to do with the media. But if you support him, another good example would be Trump tweeting out that black people are responsible for nearly all of the white homicides in America, 81%. If you support Trump, chances are you're watching right-wing media, and they didn't even cover that. I did an entire video of that on YouTube Oh, you got it. For those who want to, go to YouTube and type in Trump never said anything racist, space the handsome liberal, and you'll see my video come up. Where I didn't give you any CNN sources, I didn't present any MSNBC sources. I presented Trump talking to Bill O'Reilly and admitting it. But if you're, for instance, and I've said, why would a sitting president tweet out that African Americans are responsible for all white homicides? There was no legitimate reason. It was not true, period. But if you support Trump and you're watching right wing media, you probably never heard of that. But you got any other examples on Biden? I'm just curious.
Well, yeah, going to Buffalo and pandering to the victims of Buffalo, but wouldn't go to Waukesha or Waukesha. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Waukesha, Waukesha.
Waukesha. Okay. But he wouldn't go there. And then he's silent on the subway shooter too. Is that
Now,
not being divisive?
yes, that is. And that there right there, I'll give that is an excellent point. The way he handles, I guess I'd say the way he handles white supremacy versus racial acts coming from black people, I cannot disagree with that. I will say that Trump is the exact opposite of that. I mean, January 6th and Black Lives Matter rallies and road protests have a lot in common also. In one case, the Black Lives Matter protesters are terrorists, and the other side, it's a love fest. But I do agree with you in regards to President Biden, the way he handled it is extremely divisive. But when I bring up Black Lives Matter and January 6th, I think there's a counterpoint there. But go ahead.
Yeah. And then January 6th, we all know the FBI infiltrated that. Why won't Nancy Pelosi give up any of the phone conversations leading up to January 6th? Donald Trump even told and asked for the National Guard to be there because he said there was going to be a lot of people there. And then it
Well,
was denied by Nancy Pelosi.
well, let me respond to a real quick comment. Brian Linder, you said was Buffalo white supremacy. Yeah. With all intents and purposes, yeah, absolutely, it was a white supremacist act.
Oh, yeah.
But in regards to Nancy Pelosi, I still will suggest that Trump was in office from January 6th when that took place until January 20 something. Why didn't all of this come out? And if that audience was peaceful protesters, which is what Trump alleged, why is it necessary to produce all of this other information? Like, why is it necessary to call in the National Guard, which they're blaming Nancy Pelosi for? If it's a peaceful protest, why was the National Guard needed?
Exactly. Because he said there was going to be factions that will infiltrate what was a peaceful protest. All he said was, all right, let's leave here, walk down, and let our voices be heard peacefully. He didn't incite any violence.
Well, we can, I guess to some degree, we can spin it a little bit. If you break down Trump's words, there is a case to be made where he did not incite violence. Now, I could probably present a case where and suggest maybe he did, but let's take Trump out of the picture. There is a gallows in front of the speakers. You got folks in the crowd that are yelling, hang Mike Pence. You got Rudolph Giuliani and Steve Bannon that absolutely were inciting violence. Let's have trial by combat. What does that mean? What does that
Hey,
mean when you say so? Even though you may say Trump came up there and he was not insightful towards violence, you have to look at the folks that spoke before him in regards to the exact same topic and what they said. And then you look at the audience, they're speaking in front of a gallows. And we
all
look
right,
at this entire event and suggest that, well, there's nothing violent about to happen here. But go ahead.
look at the riots in 2016 at the Capitol.
Yeah,
They
but now
burnt
you're
half
now
the.
you're that's fine, but now you're diverting. If you want to point to the riots and all of that from 2016, we can talk about that. But right now we're talking about what happened on January 6th, just like you're diverting to something else.
Right. And then also the Kavanaugh hearings. Didn't they burst into the Capitol building during the Kavanaugh hearings?
Were
They
they
were
talking
banging
about
on the
killing?
door outside. They were
Were they
banging on
talking
the
about
door outside.
were they talking about killing Kavanaugh when that happened?
They were, yes.
Okay,
They were yelling and
then they
screaming.
should then they should be held accountable. But that's not you don't get to divert what happened on January 6th and say, well, you let them get away with murder, so you should allow my victim to die too.
And then
You can
and then
you can go.
And then the videos of the people yelling over at the police. Why are you letting them do this on January 6th? Why aren't you doing anything? Because they were given stand down orders.
Well, as far as that's concerned, then why aren't the police admitting they were given stand down orders?
Because a lot of them are controlled by uh, the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
Look at the
and
police chief, the Washington D.C. police chief. She
okay.
is a total Democrat.
Now, let me say this. There's too much contradictory information coming out. For instance, Trump called, said, I love you all, go home, it's a love fest. But then some folks say Antifa's in the crowd, and we know Trump doesn't love them. What you're talking about is the police are controlled by Democrats, but then you got right-wingers saying, well, the police invited them in and let them in, and they had Trump hats on. These things contradict each other. I don't know where else to go with this other than to take the word of law enforcement, the FBI, that presented their cases. Because if you talk to folks who are in support of Trump, it almost comes across as if they're saying whatever they have to say to make their case at that giving point. If Antifa was in the crowd, if this was orchestrated by FBI, why call it a love fest? Why is Trump suggesting that he would consider pardoning people? These are
He's
supposedly your
talking.
enemies.
He's talking about. He gave the speech. By the time he got done with the speech and started walking towards the Capitol, they were already breaking into the Capitol. So where he was at, it was peaceful. So
So you're so
you're
so
taking
you're
something that
saying
you're taking something he couldn't see and then making it his fault.
so what you're saying is that while Trump was speaking, they had already breached the Capitol building.
Well, short about 3 or 4 minutes after he got done speaking, that's when they started breaching the Capitol. Yes.
Okay, so let's go now. I saw this a different way, but let's take your way, and we'll say your way is facts. If what you're saying is true, they're in the Capitol building 2 3 minutes later. You got Mike Pence being ushered out for safety by the Secret Service. You got Congress people throughout the building hiding and putting furniture on doors and things like that. Why would you leave the president
and
out in the open? I mean,
and that
serious. Why would you
yeah.
leave the president out in the open? Why would you leave the president out in the open having a speech when less than walking distance away there is pure chaos? The
What were they?
president,
What were they about to vote on right when they breached the Capitol building? What were
it
they?
doesn't matter.
What
Now
was
it's a
being
it
presented?
doesn't okay, it doesn't matter what they're about to vote on. Now we're talking about a major safety issue. That gets pushed into the back burner. Now you got
They
all of Congress, you
they
got Mike Pence being taken out. The minute Mike Pence is being ushered to safety by the Secret Service, you got to get the president. He's only walking distance away, and he's in front of an audience of folks who have never been searched, never been patted down. If this is going like you're talking about, where the breach was going on while Trump was speaking or right after Trump spoke, why wasn't he ushered to safety?
Because they knew they just perpetrated that. It was they were going to take away electoral college votes. That's what they were voting on right when all this happened.
Okay, but
And
you're
there was no true danger. They knew it. That's why they never ushered Trump out.
so the Secret Service that ushered Mike Pence out, they just did it uselessly. They did it for no reason at all.
Yeah, yeah. Did you see anybody committing any kind of violence inside the Capitol building? I mean, besides
There
a
is a
broken window here or there.
bribe. There is a gallows with hundreds of people yelling to take his life. I saw that. How much more do you need to see?
Uh, just because somebody's got a gallow. Did you see? Did you see the actor who had a severed head of Donald Trump? I mean, shouldn't
Okay,
she be behind
you're
bars for
you're
that?
you're okay. You're deflecting. You're bringing up Kathy Griffin with a severed head. Kathy Griffin was not out in front of the White House holding her head up. She was on hundreds of, if not thousands of miles away. These people are right in front of you with a
Well,
gallows suggesting they want to take. I don't know where you're going with the Kathy Griffin thing, but the idea that you got thousands of people in front of you, no one has been searched, and they're calling for the execution of the vice president, and you're suggesting that there's nothing to worry about here, would make me ask, What would make you come to that conclusion? You have not patted down anyone. You do not know
because there
who is
was
in this crowd.
because there was armed guards there. There was police with riot gear on there. If they were really scared, why weren't those cops actually doing their job and protecting the Capitol building? Why did
They
they open
were
the doors and let them in?
okay. They were overwhelmed, first of all. But I'm going back to your original comment that there was no danger. And I'm asking you, how do you personally know that? There could have been a
All right,
suicide bomber in that crowd. There's no way to know that. No one has been patted down. How could you make
that's
this
cool.
assumption that everybody and everything is cool?
So after everything's been said and done, did anybody have any weapons?
We don't know because a lot of them came and left. We do not know. We know people had on wrist cuffs. We know people had bear spray. We know people were wearing body armor and using other things to beat up people with. We don't know.
The
They
people that are
came and
still
went.
being the people that are still being held for the January 6th now are just political prisoners at this point.
Okay, I cannot speak on whether they're political prisoners or not. I'm just simply painting it from a picture of where you're saying or you're suggesting that there was no danger to anyone that day. And I'm telling you, there is absolutely no way you, the police, the Secret Service, you got a huge crowd of people and no one has been patted down. No one has been identified or anything. There's absolutely no way you could look at this crowd and say they're all safe. And then keep in mind, a lot of Trump supporters are suggesting that Antifa and Black Lives Matter was in the crowd. So you don't even know who's
They
there.
were.
Then,
They
then how
were.
do you know the crowd is safe?
You
What would
had the
make you say that
CNN
crowd is safe?
you had the CNN reporter and her boyfriend were inside the Capitol building and he's BLM and that was his girlfriend that worked for CNN. They paid him $30,000 for his video inside the Capitol building, but then it was taken from him from the government. But there's proof right there that BLM was inside the Capitol building, and he
So let me
definitely
ask
wasn't a Trump supporter.
let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question based on your own research, your own observation. Out of the hundreds of folks who did enter the building, I'm not talking about the folks on the lawn that protested because and since what they did on the lawn, the folks who didn't go, that's covered by the First Amendment. But the folks who went into the building, in your own opinion, based on your observation, were majority of those folks Trump supporters, or were they, half and half, Antifa and Black Lives Matter? What do you think in regards to those who were inside the building?
I think the majority of them were Trump supporters, but I think there was a big agitation crowd of Antifa and BLM mixed in to
Okay,
cause trouble.
do you consider erecting a gallows and yelling "Hang Mike Pence" as agitation?
Oh yeah, 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 definitely.
Okay, so that crowd is not safe then. If you're telling me agitators are there, then would you want to put the president and the vice president near a crowd that is full with agitators?
Yeah, why didn't they usher out Donald Trump, but they ushered out Mike Pence if they thought it was this dangerous?
That is the question that I'm asking you, which leads me to believe that when Trump was speaking, that breach was nowhere near happening yet. You said that the breach happened a couple minutes later, and I'm saying that's where the whole spiel comes around to, where that leads me to believe that when the reason Donald Trump was not ushered out because that breach happened long after he was done speaking and had left the podium. if
Yeah,
that
and
if that breach if that breach happened according to you, what you said that breach only happened a couple minutes after Donald Trump spoke, which would mean he was speaking while a lot of them were heading towards the Capitol building, because there is like a mile hike between those two spots where Donald Trump was and where they went into the Capitol building. So if Donald
right.
Trump was still speaking, the federal government or the Secret Service or whoever you want to say, Capitol Police, they would have seen all of those folks heading to their building while Trump was still speaking, and they would have ushered them out because that is a clear safety issue.
And then the FBI that
Hang
was
on a second.
embedded.
Shit. All right, I don't know. My screen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. All right, go. Somebody got tired of this shit. I do see you there. But go ahead. I'm listening.
So the FBI clearly had agents embedded all throughout this crowd. And why was that? What was his name? Michael Epps. Michael Epps. He worked for the FBI. Why wasn't he charged? He's on multiple videos inciting violence all across the crowds.
Well, I think to some degree, the difficult problem we have is you think that Trump was peaceful, and for the most part, most of the agitators are either liberals or Black Lives Matter or Antifa. You don't seem to see a lot of issues with the MAGA crowd at all. Most of your problems are from the other side, even though it was a Trump orchestrated rally.
Yeah, and any rally with that kind of numbers, I mean, how many people were there? Millions, some people? Trust me, you're gonna get a lot of agitators. That's easy for somebody to infiltrate and just poke around and try and incite violence in
Well, when
what would
you
normally have been a peaceful protest.
When you invite a bunch of angry people to one location and the people they're angry at are at the same location and you do not pat down or you do not vet anybody that is there, it should be expected that some problems are going to take place. I mean,
Yeah,
if I knew my cousin or somebody in my family was pissed off at you, and I invited them to your job at the time you were coming out from work, and I told them all kinds of bad shit about you, it's probably predictable that something could happen. I don't see how you could look at this and say, "Well, I just invited them out that day." You'd have to understand that you're probably putting two pieces of fire together. But look, I guess somebody else wants to get in. I'll let you get the last word as usual.
all right. Yeah, that makes sense when you put it that way. Yeah, you're
Oh,
probably right. But
shit.
uh
Okay.
I still do believe that it was there was more to it than that. I believe that the DC police were in on it. They allowed it to happen. They moved barricades out of the way. They opened doors. They allowed them in the buildings. If they really didn't want them in those buildings, trust me, they had the firepower to keep them out of the buildings.
Yeah, but
Overwhelmed
then
or
you
not.
got if you and you're right. They had the firepower. Then you got a Tiananmen Square on your hands. Now you're mowing down hundreds of people, and it's on national TV. You don't want that. You'd rather
Yeah,
see if
they
you can
could
get
have.
them out of there peacefully.
Yeah, they could have fired in the air. I mean, it's not
I
like you have
mean,
to mow them down. Trust me,
just look
that
at
scare people off.
what happened to what was it? What Ashley Babbitt. Not only did she go into the Capitol building, but now you got people inside of the building that are cowering behind a second barricade where they've broken down that barricade and now she's trying to get through there. She gets shot and people are like, that was unjustified. So you
It
want them to
was.
use firepower to mow down that crowd? And you got,
I
if
technically I technically think that Ashley Babbitt scene was unnecessary. There was two police officers in riot gear standing right behind her. If she
okay,
was really that much of a threat, why did that guy on the other side of a door have to shoot her?
well, let me say this in regards to the guy who shot Ashley Babbitt. There's absolutely no way to know if he saw cops in that crowd behind her or any of that. All he knows is they're hiding behind a window or a broken window or whatever it was. He has a gun telling her to stay back and she's not listening. That's all he knows. He doesn't know if she's armed. He doesn't know any of that. Even if there is an armed police officer behind her and you're a cop and a threat is coming towards you, how long do you wonder why isn't my officer backing me up? I feel like I'm in danger. I have a gun aimed at her, telling her to stand down, and she's not doing that.
He didn't
I
even
don't
have
have enough.
he didn't even have the gun trained at her. If you watch the video, he's got the
He
gun
has
trained
to, it
away from
doesn't matter.
her, and then he turns and shoots her at the last second.
It really doesn't matter who he had the gun aimed at. If a man has a gun aimed out, do not proceed towards that man. Period. Doesn't matter what a gun. Why would you go to a guy that has a gun out and aiming at people? That sounds like Kyle Rittenhouse. If you want to
Oh yeah.
defend Kyle Rittenhouse, you got to defend the police that done that. Why would you walk up on an armed man that has the gun out and he's literally aiming it? Does that make any sense
Trust
to
me.
you?
No, that don't make it because I sure the hell wouldn't.
All right, let me move on. Come on back to if you're on tonight, I appreciate if you come on through.
Right on, right on. Have a good day.
All right, always good to talk to Brian, bro. We don't know, but that ain't the goal. The goal is to have a conversation. Tired of this shit. Name is that. We'll find out. Do your content is unimpressive. You need a change. Okay, Bob Taylor. Can't impress everybody. I lost you. We'll move on. Okay. Tired of this shit too. What's up, man?
Hi, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Did you hear any of the previous conversation?
I did. I heard quite a bit of it. And
What did you
as I agree with both of yous on some of the things. I see a lot of your lives, and I think you have a lot of great points on a lot of stuff. But I
thank
also
you.
think you make up excuses for some stuff that just shouldn't be excused. You know what I mean?
I Give me some examples. Let's talk about it. Give me some
Like
examples.
like just now. Um, when you're saying about the Capitol Police and all that, I don't know if you're looking. So why did the Capitol Police at a particular point in time of the January 6th open the gates and open the doors and wave people in there and a mad situation, like just rushing them inside the Capitol building at that Pacific time? The cop come running across the thing, opening up the gates, waving them in at a Pacific time. And I'm just curious why you think that they did it exactly at that time.
Well, if I had to give my analytics, and I'm not making excuses because I don't know at the end of the day, but my analyzation would be either one or two things. Either the cops that let them in were afraid, because there's no denying that folks in that crowd were shouting out some very angry shit, in addition to the gallows they erected. So either they were afraid, or the second is even more sinister. They were in on it. They were Trump supporters. There were actual Capitol Police that day wearing red hats. There were Capitol Police with the hats on. So some of them were Trump sympathizers. I mean, there's only two candidates to vote for, and Trump was the what did he call himself? The law enforcement police, the law enforcement president or whatever. There's a lot of law enforcement that support Trump. So they let him in because a lot of them probably agreed with him. But go ahead.
I can't quite believe that. I believe it was a setup. I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody in the Trump movement or everybody even in the Biden movement, I can't say that everybody are bad people. I think the majority of the people are good people, but you can't eliminate bad people because they're always going to be there in some kind of I can't think of the word, I'm sorry, but even if it's a small group or a big group, there's always going to be hateful, evil people out there.
Mhm.
So you can't compare them. You can't compare what that group does compared to the whole group of people that were there. There
And
was over a
enough.
million people there.
Well, if you heard what I told the last caller, I made it clear that we're not talking about the protesters on the line. I even stated what they were doing was covered by the First Amendment. I am not faulting, even with the gallows. If it's legal, I'm not necessarily criticizing the folks who went in that Capitol building. On the other hand, that is where it started to become illegal. Now, if you got a gallows on the lawn of the Capitol, the lawn or wherever the hell they was at, and you're yelling out that you want to take the life of the vice president. Is there a law against that? I don't know in regards to that. Is that a crime in itself? If I stood on your lawn and I had a gallows on your front lawn suggesting that I wanted to take your life, my guess is you would at least go and put your hand on your pistol. So
Yes, sir.
is it a
Yes, sir.
crime though? Yeah, exactly. But because we're being told that even though they did that, we should view them as peaceful and loving, and it was a love fest. Even though they have a gallows out there talking about they want to take the life of the vice president. And oddly enough, there are a lot of folks who see that as patriotic because that was a crowd full of patriots. They're talking about literally taking the life of the vice president. To me, the whole mindset on this is twisted. But go ahead.
Do you believe that throughout the 4 years of Trump's presidency, I mean, you got to admit, not only did he have the Democrats against him, but he had a lot of Republicans against him too.
Why is
And
that?
because he wasn't part of the political establishment. I believe
Okay.
that both parties are corrupt at the top, at
Okay.
least at the top. I believe they're
Okay.
corrupt. I believe Lindsey Graham and all them are just corrupt. So I just wondering if he would have gotten a halfway decent chance to be a president like Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or Bush's or any of the other presidents prior to him, would would the situation have been as bad as it was? I feel a lot of people were just angry all the way from the beginning of the whole situation. And then to have an election stolen from them, I understand people's frustrations. And do you
Okay. Let
think that
me.
it would have been the same?
Okay, and you make a good. Let me respond. And Brian, look like it says Brian, Pamela, and Ronnie Powell. I do see you in it, but let me finish with this caller. I will say this in regards to you saying that Trump never got a chance. I do agree that there were people that were gunning from him from day one. But however, I will ask you this question. You give me your answer. Trump spent at least 2 to 4 years before getting elected suggesting that President Obama was born in a different country. Right before becoming president, he came out and admitted, yeah, the guy is born here, but he never apologized or anything. Now, I'm going to ask you, once Trump got elected, knowing what he did to the previous president, do you believe people should have had the right to be very angry with him?
At Trump?
Yeah, for saying that the previous president was an illegitimate president, possibly born in Kenya or something like that, and then coming out at
Well,
the
I
last
mean,
minute and saying no.
you got to admit that there's videos out there of Barack Obama admitting he's from Kenya. You know what I mean?
Okay. So you actually believe everything Barack Obama says now?
I believe I believe people are picked and chosen for that spot by the higher ups that run this country, and that doesn't matter to them where they were born or where they were from. I think they are groomed from childhood to get to the positions that they are right now.
Okay, so Trump came out and said right before getting elected that Barack Obama was born in America. He never apologized. I go back to my original question. Do you believe Barack Obama supporters had a reason to hate Trump when he got elected based on that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that Trump didn't say things that were uncalled for and unacceptable. He did have a mouth on him, you
Right.
know.
So when I asked
But just
exactly
because But
the
just
reason I'm
because
asking that,
he says it straight out in words that we understand, where the rest of the parties use these political standings to make it sound like it's, I mean, peaceful protest and the summer of love and all that. And
the summer of love sounds a whole lot like the January 6th was a love fest. I mean, I think, and this is what I said to one of the callers earlier. If you support Trump, you don't hear the same stuff you would hear coming from another person. Like you said that Trump says things straight out and everybody else beats around the bush. Calling Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas is not saying things straight out. That's an insult. And I would say that Sleepy Joe Biden is not saying things straight out. If you want to say, listen, this guy is not in his mental faculties and he's probably not the best guy to run for office, say that. Don't call him a Sleepy Joe Biden and all. So you just support Trump. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. My preferred audience members are MAGA. I make that clear. But because you support Trump, your viewpoint on Trump is going to be different on other people. Like you said, they never gave him a chance from day one. But now I'm pointing out stuff, and even now you're admitting, yeah, Barack Obama supporters had a reason to be angry with him from day one. You just admitted that, and then that's just with Barack Obama. I could talk about my war heroes don't get captured, which would make McCain supporters hate him. I could talk about Mitt Romney was down on his knees, which would make Mitt Romney. I mean, Trump did a lot of stuff other than just being a non-member of the establishment to make people hate him. And you came out and admitted, yeah, he says a lot of unacceptable
okay,
shit.
so
So
how much? So regardless of what he has said, how much was he supposed to take? How many attacks from Republicans, Democrats, civilians that how many times was he supposed to just sit there and be polite about it? Politeness doesn't always work. Sometimes you need to put your boundaries up. You need to let people know where you stand. And if they cross that point, then they got repercussions for it. You know what I mean?
I
There's
agree.
boundaries.
I agree with you 100%. And I will respond to your question by when you said, how much is he supposed to take? My response to that would be, if you did not dish out so much, there would not probably have been so much coming at you. Trump had a great economy. Look at what we're paying at the gas prices. Things are way better economically under Trump. If he was not doing that shit, he would still be in office. So, like I said, you can see the attacks coming at Trump. But because you support Trump, you ignore all of the attacks and things that he has been doing to other people, so that it looks like, well, wow, he's sure he's been attacked a lot for no reason. Because when he's yelling Pocahontas and stuff, you're too busy cheering. You're too busy enjoying the attacks that he's launching at other people. If you stopped and paid attention and said, wow, that's kind of wrong, the Native Americans don't seem to like that, you'd realize he's throwing out a lot of stuff, and a lot of the attacks that like both impeachments. I strongly do not believe Trump would have been impeached either time had he not been messing with people. It's like if I get pulled over for speeding and you're in my passenger seat and you start talking shit to the police, even though you're not driving, we are both going to have problems out of the police because you won't shut your mouth up. Trump had problems out of everybody because he was attacking so many people. But if you support him, you support all of the attacks. I'll let you get the last word.
I don't though, sir. You're
Well,
because
I don't.
I don't believe, there was plenty of times where I seen him speaking and I was just like, man, I wish he would just shut up. Lots of times I didn't agree with a lot of the things he said, but do I have to look over what he said because of how good me and my family were doing under his presidency? I guess that's what I have to do because
Right,
my
and you should.
family was doing better.
Right, and that should not be the case. You should not have to choose between a good economy and mean tweets. There's no reason for the mean tweets to be happening. But look, I want to move on. I got somebody else in here. You welcome back anytime. Like I said,
I
folks,
just,
follow the channel if
I
you
just
will.
want
7
to,
p.m. is when we do it. Go.
I just want to say thank you. That's all. Thank
Absolutely,
you.
absolutely. Friend of the program. Like
Okay.
I said, folks, I'm not Adam Malord. Apologize if I cut you off early, but yeah, I'm not expecting everybody to agree. You see what my name is. You see who I prefer talking to. So it's not always going to be everybody. At the end of the day, the whole goal is simply to have someone from the other side being willing to have a conversation with someone from that side, because that's more than what they're doing in Washington. The fact that we can talk is progress. We don't have to agree. Now, I got somebody else that wants to get in the box. Brian, we're going to see what's going on. We'll make a powerful podcast. Hopefully, never know. Brian, what's on your mind this afternoon?
First of all, I appreciate you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate you everything you're doing. I want to go
Thank
back.
you.
I want to go back to the building, the insurrection.
Okay. All right, go for it.
I feel that the people at that building that went into that building are 100% completely wrong. I'm a Trump supporter. I don't like Trump's mouth, and I think everybody can back that.
No, not
And
necessarily. Wait a minute, let me stop you real quick. There are a lot of folks there are folks who, every insult that Trump has said, Pocahontas, Sleepy Joe, they got t-shirts. Fuck your feelings is a real thing. There are a lot of Trump supporters who actually love the insults. Maybe not you, but there's a lot of Trump supporters who like the insults. But go ahead.
Yeah, I believe he would still be president if he'd keep his mouth shut. But
So do I.
Going back to that building, that's a federal building. And I think everybody in the world seen what happened to that building. I think those people that went into that building made America look worse.
I agree.
I think we should have opened fire on those people, even though they were Trump supporters, either with rubber bullets or beanbags or something. Should have made those people, even though they were Trump supporters, stand down. That was bad for America.
Let me ask you this question. let me ask you this question. Based on what you saw, and there's no way you're going to know truthfully because there's no way I know, and I don't think the numbers have been released. But if you had to estimate the number of protesters, and I'm gonna be kind with it. I'm gonna call them protesters. I'm not calling them rioters or insurrectionists. I'm gonna call them protesters. But based on the number of protesters, how many protesters per cop do you think were out there that day?
Oh, that's a really tough question because there's so many people saying that it was mixed with. Um, I mean, I really don't want to say what it was mixed with people from the left and people from the right. There were protesters or not protesters, and they were mixing other people in there. So it's
Why
really
would
hard to
why would a
say.
person why would a person from the left be in that crowd? What would be their benefit of being in that crowd?
Well, there's people saying they're planning them in there.
For
So
what though? What I mean, if I'm a Democrat, why would you plant me in that crowd?
there,
What is there
there,
to gain?
there was people saying they were trying to activate a riot. So
You
I'm
know
not
how?
trying. Well, that's not what I'm. That's not why I tried to come in here live.
Okay, all right, okay,
The reason I tried to come into your live is trying to say they were. I'm trying to say that building should have been protected by those police officers instead of letting
true.
people in that door. That building should have been protected. That's why I tried to come into your live. Those
Okay, fair enough.
buildings, whether those were Trump supporters or not, the reason I came into this live is saying that building should have been protected.
Okay, let me.
Any government building should be protected because there's people in the world watching this. Okay, there's terrorists and everything saying, "Look how easy I can walk into a building." So
Well, okay, let me respond. Let me respond to that. I will say this in regards to the buildings should have been protected. They were protected, but anything can be overran. Just like in Michigan, a lot of the anti-mask crowd overran the Capitol building in Michigan. If you got 200, 300 guards protecting the Capitol building, and 10,000 people show up, there's not a lot those 200 guards can do. And that was the reason I asked you to estimate it or guesstimate, because we don't know, to guesstimate how many protesters per guard or per police officer was there, because you
yeah,
suggested possibly.
but
Hold on, hang on, let
didn't
me
Trump
finish. Let me say,
offer
I'll
the
let you.
National Guard
Okay,
beforehand, and Pelosi
let me
said no?
Okay, let me respond to that. The reason I asked you that is because you originally suggested using rubber bullets or something. And my opinion is that if they had done that, you probably would have lost some police officers that day because the protesters had the sheer number. Now, let's say they sent in a National Guard. They done that in Kenosha under the Kyle Rittenhouse issue. Even the National Guard sometimes realizes it's better to just let them express their anger than to fire off shots. And now you don't know how many more protesters may show up. Even the National Guard can be overran. Just because you got superior weapons, this is America. Everybody has superior weapons, and they got the numbers. So if you start firing off rubber bullets, my guess is you're going to lose a lot of cops. That's just because you haven't searched the crowd. You don't know what's in this crowd. You start firing off bullets. They already believe their constitutional rights are being mistreated. They already believe that they're being downtrodden as citizens. Now you're killing them. You're going to lose a lot of cops if you do that. But go ahead.
Okay, but for some way, shape, or form, we still have to protect our national treasures, our
True.
buildings. We're already ripping down statues because we don't believe that our past is can't stand anymore. Now we're letting people overrun our buildings, and we're
Well,
losing everything that we stand for anymore. We're
okay.
letting people
Well,
just overrun shit because somebody that's got a mouth that I support, someone that's got a mouth that can't keep their goddamn mouth shut, keeps
I agree with
talking.
that last part.
You know what I mean? It
I
makes
agree
this
with
shit
that last
ridiculous.
part.
Now I'm going to
Yeah.
let everybody know this keeps going here. Now, I support a lot of people on this page, and I'm on a lot of pages. the Packing Patriot, the Cosmopolitan. I don't know if you guys know her. Great person. Javante, the reporter. I can rip off a lot of people that are on the TikTok and on all the other pages. I support a lot of them that go through all this stuff.
Okay. And you're welcome here. I make it clear that this is a MAGA friendly platform. You see my name, and I prefer talking to MAGA. That's not an issue. But at the end of the day, I guess I would ask you the question, which is what the video is titled. Do you believe Trump or Biden was more? Who do you believe is more divisive? We only had maybe almost a couple years of Biden, not even quite a couple years. But in regards to those two individuals, who do you believe is the most divisive, Trump or Biden?
Well, I can tell you Trump's not going to be reelected. I can actually tell you Trump won't run again.
Why do you say that?
I have an insight that
This is interesting. I got a question to ask you, but I'll let you finish. I want to ask you a question in regards to this.
Excuse me?
I said I'm gonna let you
finish,
but okay, well, let me ask you the question. You got it. You said you got an insight and you don't believe Trump will be back. So my first question to you, considering the fact that Black Lives Matter collected a hell of a lot of money and nobody know where the money went, why is Trump collecting so much money if he's not going to run?
He's setting up DeSantis.
So he's going to give him all of the money, 100% of it.
That's correct. He's setting up Ron DeSantis.
Okay. All right, okay. I need to see that because
mark my words on that. He's setting up Ron DeSantis.
Okay. All right, okay. So if Trump decides not to run and he does not give an incredible amount of money to Ron DeSantis, would you believe or would you hold Trump responsible for being a crook? Because he would be just like Black Lives Matter at that point.
I wouldn't say. Well, he has not announced his candidacy yet, has he? So none of that money that he's collected from everybody who's donated is not considered candidacy money yet. So that money he's collected is not candidacy money. So that money can go anywhere it wants to go. So he's not a crook yet. It's not money. It's not. He's not a crook yet.
That's fine, but let me get my point across to you. Obviously, until he announces he's going to run, you're right. He doesn't have to to account for the money. But I'm asking you this question. There's a lot of low-income folks on the bottom end of the socio-economical scale or socio-economic end of the scale that are hurting real bad under Biden. They believe Trump is going to come and correct this country. They're wearing Trump 2024 t-shirts. They got the hats everywhere. They got flags in front of their house. They're donating that money to Trump so that he can run. The last thing they want to hear is, well, I had not announced my campaign, so I kind of can keep the money. If he keeps the money, would you hold him accountable for doing something that is immorally awful? It's morally awful to do that. What would you think?
I believe in my heart, Trump will get involved in the government some way, shape, or form, but not as president.
Okay, so what? So if he doesn't account for the money, are you okay with that? Just as long as he gets involved in government?
I believe he's going to become Speaker of the House.
Okay, Speaker of the House? Are you kidding me? You think Trump is going to take a backseat to a Republican president? Are you for real?
And then I believe that's just what I believe.
Okay. All right. I can't go anywhere with that.
and then I believe he'll step out when DeSantis becomes president of the United States. Yeah.
Okay, now you lost me when you went to Speaker of the House. That okay. All right, fair enough. Well, I'll let you get your point across. Let me move the program on. I'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
Just write my name down, and in 2024, you can actually friend me then and say, "Holy shit, this guy was right."
I look forward to it. I look forward to it. All right. Well, let me move it on.
Here's what I want. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to write my name down. Go to my last video that I just posted, and everybody that's watching me, go to my last video that I just posted, and look at the people I just talked to. I just had a meeting with them last night in my last video, and you can see the meeting I had with those people last night. And
Okay.
you'll
All
see
right.
my meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, appreciate going through. But okay, folks, I got about another 5 minutes or so. I just want to read some of the comments. But and I see Jeff said no thanks. DeSantis, no please. They love meetings. I could not get that man to say that he would hold Trump for how that money was spent. So there, and I believe he is a genuine MAGA supporter, a genuine Trump supporter. So for the most part, I could see where Trump would be smart enough, wise enough to not announce he's going to run. And if he does at the last minute, because clearly there are Trump supporters who would not hold him accountable for where the money went. That guy was a perfect example. To me, if you're raising a ton of money from folks who are poor, who are hurting under Biden economically, and there's a lot of Americans that are hurting under Biden, you know why the hell they donating that money to you. You know what they expect of you. They want the country to go back the way it was before Biden. To tell those folks who donated their hard-earned money to you that, well, hell, I hadn't announced yet, so I really don't have to be accountable for this money. Do you realize how corrupt, how crooked that shit sounds? You want to talk about Hunter Biden? You want to talk about Hillary Clinton? But you don't see that? You don't see that. Let me go to the next comment. You guys got me hot up in this motherfucker. We don't give money for him to be president. We give money for him to expose a corrupt government. How is he going to do that if he's not in office? How is he going? He doesn't have access to any information. As president, he can get that stuff done. As president, he can open up investigations and he can actually lead to things. Donate money. You might as well donate your money to Rudolph Giuliani or any other lawyer out there. Why would you donate your money to Trump as a non-politician to expose corrupt? At least donate it to lawyers and typical politicians that actually have an inside spiel to get shit accomplished. You really believe that Washington is corrupt? So you're going to go donate your money to a real estate mogul? A TV celebrity? Does that make sense to you? If you want Trump to be in position to actually help expose the corruptness in Washington, then you want him as president. Without him as president, he is essentially useless to you. He'll go around the country holding rallies. Nobody gives a shit about that if he's not in office. I can't believe you would suggest that. I really don't. Trump will be president in 2024. Then that would put you in a better place in terms of exposing corruption. He gets the same info daily that Biden does. So does Obama, says Daddy Rap. Yeah, but if the FBI is corrupt, if you believe the CIA, the NSA, the fucking the Center for Disease Control with the pandemic, if you believe all of those organizations are corrupt, then you would have to realize that any information that they're giving former presidents may be missing certain documents, may be missing certain information. You're going to tell me as a Trump supporter that you believe the FBI is corrupt, you don't trust Dr. Fauci, you don't trust the CDC, you don't trust the WHO, but you actually trust the documents that they're handing you as a former president. And that makes sense to you, right? That absolutely makes sense to you. They're going to be on television releasing shit that is false, but they're going to hand you the truth in the documents. And you believe that. He needs to be president if you think he's going to expose any form of corruptness. Period. I don't want Trump as president. What does it say? I don't want Trump as president and I support Trump. Then you need DeSantis. I've said it before. Even as a liberal, you see my name. I don't make no qualms about who I am, but I prefer talking to right-wingers. But even as a liberal, I will tell you, if you want Trump, but you don't like Trump, you want DeSantis. What is the same spiel I give to all my regular viewers? Tastes great, less filling. Remember the old beer commercials from the 1990s? Tastes great, less filling. With DeSantis, you get all of the same typical type of legislation you would have got from Trump. Tastes great. But you don't get the unnecessary calories. You don't get the tweets. You don't get the insults. You don't get the never Trumpers. Less filling. You put DeSantis on the ticket instead of Trump on the ticket, And now all of the never Trumpers come back to the party and it reassembles like a Lego set. And the whole Republican Party is united. Why should a liberal have to tell you that shit? But you guys are so loyal to Trump. I understand. I'm just telling you, DeSantis would probably be a better candidate for you. And as a liberal, I hope you don't ever get that message. I hope it never sinks in. How do you feel about leftists? Digital, what is this? Says DJJD. I lean left. I don't feel very comfortable with the fringes of either party. I'm not a fan of the far left. I'm not a fan of the far right. I believe that America benefits when we can reach across the aisle, talk to each other, and get shit done. Meet in the middle. The far left and the far right is not interested in talking to each other. They're not interested in reaching across the aisle. They just want what they want. That's where we've started to become a far left and a far right country. Biden was elected to be a uniter. And he's been pulled further left by the AOCs, the Bernie Sanders, the Elizabeth Warren types. So he is no longer considered a moderate anymore, even though that's what he was elected to be. So I'm not a fan of far left or far right. I hope that answer is somewhat understandable. Damn, I'll take some mean tweets in a good economy, says NG Abrams. Why should you have to take mean tweets, though? What the hell does a mean tweet have to do with running the country? I would take a good economy, too. But why do you need why is mean tweets even on the fucking menu? Let me give you an example. I've used this before to some of my regular viewers. Trump is like a father that provides. Everybody in the house, the kids have all the latest video games. They got any bike they want, any toys they want. Mama got all the latest purses, Coach. What are some of the more expensive? The Birkin bags. Mama has everything she wants. Dad is providing for everybody in the house. But when dad comes home from work, he goes to your sister and he whispers in her ear all kinds of negative shit about you. Then he comes to you and whispers all kinds of negative shit about his sister. He looks at his wife and says, you're getting fat and that new dress reminds me of a bag stuffed with leaves. But everybody in the house is now pissed off with each other. The kids come home from school, they go to their rooms, they don't want to talk to each other. The wife doesn't even want to sleep in the same bed with the husband. But Trump is sitting at the table eating alone saying, look at all of the shit I provide for you. Ignore the shit I say. Look at all of the stuff I'm doing for you. You live in a fancy house. There's 2 cars outside. Everybody's doing well. Why don't you ignore the shit I'm saying? That's the situation we have. When you look at, well, I'm okay with the mean tweets. Your sister's upstairs crying. You in the bedroom busting holes in your flat screen TV. The wife is talking to her ex from high school. But hey, everybody got a car, everybody got bikes, everybody got video games. Look at all the shit I'm providing. Ignore what I'm saying. Does that make any sense to you? Let me see. And everyone is made stronger. Okay. Looking at Trump appreciate that. Callie, appreciate that. Thank you. Much love. Trump had to Senate the House and presidency. What did he do? A tax cut for the rich. There are folks, particularly on the left, who do argue that Trump's tax cuts benefited the wealthy more. My take is Trump's tax cuts probably benefited everyone to some degree. Keep in mind, the way America's set up, most legislation benefits the citizens of this country from the top down. No matter what they do, it generally benefits the wealthy first, even from the Democratic side. Most of the shit that is done, the wealthy are the first to benefit from it. So that's kind of just the way our country was set up. It was designed from day one, because keep in mind, even during the time of the founding fathers, the only people that could vote in this country were white males who owned property. So even if you're a white dude and you don't own property, you couldn't vote. Our country has been set up from the very beginning to always benefit the wealthy. And no matter how many twists and turns, no matter how many politicians for the people, or in Trump's case, not a typical politician, at the end of the day, everything they do predominantly benefits the top first. Trump is no exception to that. He may have given it lip service and made it sound better or sound different, but most of their policies throughout liberals and Republicans, the wealthy benefit more. You look at any administration, particularly in most of our lifetimes, and you will realize whether they were Democrat or Republican, the wealthy and the poor, the gap got even bigger under both sides. So clearly the wealthy is benefiting from the shit we're doing in this country, no matter who's in office. Looking real quick in the comments. Who pays corporations taxes? You do if you buy the things they produce. Yeah, even if you don't buy the things they produce. Chances are a corporation will come in your town and say, but I'm creating jobs. I shouldn't have to pay the same taxes that the working man pays. I'm creating jobs. So they still give them benefits. Even if you boycott the corporations, they still have ways of reaching in your pocket and taking shit from you. Our country is founded on benefiting the wealthy first. Always has been, probably always will be. Look, folks, I have got to get back to work like everyone else. If you will, follow the channel. I appreciate that. You got my likes up. 7,000. I'm not hating on that. Had some real good conversations. Tonight at 7 p.m., we will be back in here. Probably going to be still tackling this shit. We still want to know if Dr. Oz was the right person in Pennsylvania. Follow the channel. You'll get the notifications. And I want to hear from you. And as I always say in closing, bring your red hats, because I sure as hell got mine. Catch you later.